In this episode, we will talk about Codex by OpenAI, so Codex. It's this cloud-based software engineering agent from OpenAI. And the idea is it works alongside developers.
Yeah, it's meant to automate a whole bunch of coding tasks, way beyond just, finishing your line of code.
Right, it's not just autocomplete anymore. So in this deep dive, we'll explore its capabilities, the tech behind it, applications, and, well, what it might mean for the future of coding.
Definitely. It's quite a leap. If you think back, the original Codex model from 2021, that was what powered GitHub Copilot. And it was mostly that smart autocomplete within your IDE, your integrated development environment, helping you type code faster.
But now we're talking about something called vibe coding. What's that about?
Yeah, vibe coding. It's this idea where you, the developer, just describe what you want, in plain English.
To tell it what to build.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And Codex figures out how to build it. It's not just guessing the next few characters, it's interpreting your intent, understanding the goal.
That's a significant shift from predicting words to understanding instructions.
Exactly. And the latest version driving this is Codex 1. It's built on OpenAI's O3 architecture. That's O3.
A new architecture.
Yeah, seems to be their newer approach for structuring these big AI models for better performance. And importantly, Codex 1 was fine-tuned on tons of real pull requests from GitHub.
Ah, so it learned from how developers actually collaborate and review code, not just isolated snippets.
Precisely. It learns the whole workflow generating code, yes, but also following best practices.
Like what kind of best practices?
Things like linting, automatically checking the code style and for potential errors, like a proofreader.
Okay.
And running tests to make sure the code actually works as intended, and keeping the style consistent across the whole project.
So it tries to write code like a professional developer would, following team standards.
That's the goal. It makes it much more suitable for, real-world projects, not just toy examples.
Okay, makes sense. So if I'm a developer, how do I actually get my hands on this? How do I use it?
Right now, the main way is through ChatGPT. If you have a Pro, Enterprise, or Team account, you should see a Codex beta icon in the sidebar on the left.
A beta icon, got it.
Click that, and it takes you to the agent's sort of control panel. First time, you'll need to connect your GitHub account.
Okay, connection required. How does that work? Securely, I hope.
Yeah, it uses OAuth. That's that standard protocol where you grant permission without giving away your password.
Like logging into a site with your Google account.
Exactly like that. It asks for read and write access, but importantly, you can restrict it. You can say, okay, only access this specific organization or just my personal projects.
Good. So I control what it can see and modify. What happens after I connect GitHub?
Then you pick the repository of the project you want it to work on and even the specific branch within that project.
A specific branch, okay.
And here's a key thing. Codex doesn't mess with your local files or your main GitHub repo directly. Not at first.
Oh. So where does it work?
It clones the branch you selected into its own isolated sandbox. Think of it as a secure micro-virtual machine, or micro-VM, running in OpenAI's cloud.
Micro-VM,
Yeah.
like a tiny temporary computer just for this task.
Exactly. It has its own file system, CPU, RAM, central processing unit, random access memory, all separate and secure, like running an app in a container, isolated from everything else.
Right, so my main project stays safe. That's reassuring. Can I set things up inside that sandbox?
Yes, you can configure the environment. You can add environment variables, those settings that affect how software runs. You can add secrets like API keys securely.
Okay.
And you can define setup commands it needs to run first. It's actually quite similar to setting up a continuous integration job, a CI job.
Ah, like preparing the build environment. What about tools like linters or formatters?
Common ones are pre-installed, but you can override them if your project needs a specific version. It's pretty flexible.
Okay, environment setup. What can I actually ask Codex to do?
They provide a few task templates to get you started. There's an ask template. You can ask questions like, explain the architecture here.
Useful for understanding code.
Definitely. Then there's a code template. You can say things like, find and fix the bug that causes this specific error.
Direct coding requests.
Yep. And a suggest template where it scans the repo and suggests maintenance chores it could do, like cleanup tasks.
Proactive suggestions. Nice.
And maybe the most powerful, you can just give it custom instructions in plain English. Describe exactly what you need.
Okay, so I pick a template or write my own instructions.
Right.
Then what?
You hit launch, and for each task you launch, it spins up a separate, dedicated micro VM.
A new VM for every single task.
Yes. And that's really cool because it means you can run multiple tasks in parallel.
Ah, so I could ask it to fix a bug and refactor some code and write some tests all at the same time.
Exactly. They all run concurrently in their own little sandboxes. You can even close ChatGPT and come back later. The jobs keep running in the background.
That's a huge efficiency boost.
hmm
How do I see the results when it's done?
Back in the ChatGPT interface, you'll see the task status. Completed tasks might have a green check mark if tests passed.
Okay.
You click on the task and you get a detailed view. You'll see the exact code changes, what was added, removed, changed.
Visual diff, essential.
Right. You also get the model's explanation why it made those changes, and a full work log detailing every step it took.
Full transparency. I like that. So if I like the changes, how do I get them into my actual project?
Two main options. If it looks good, there's an open PR button. Click that, and it pushes the changes back to your GitHub repo as a new pull request ready for review.
Oh, straight to a pull request. That simplifies things.
It really does. Or if you want changes, maybe it missed something, you can just reply to the task in ChatGPT. Give it follow-up instructions.
Iterate with the AI.
Exactly. You can refine it until it's right.
Okay, we've covered the how-tos. Can you give some concrete examples? How are people actually using this to, get stuff done?
Yeah, sure. OpenAI's own engineers obviously use it a lot. One big use case is speeding up project scaffolding.
Setting up new projects.
Yeah. Imagine starting a new Swift project. You could just tell Codex, set up a basic Swift package with these components, and it handles creating the directories, config files, all that initial boilerplate.
That definitely saves time on the tedious setup. What else?
It's proving really useful in code review workflows. So, Codex generates a pull request, right?
Right.
A human developer reviews it just like any other PR. If they spot an issue, a small bug, maybe a style thing, they can just prompt Codex in the review comments, hey, fix this.
So the AI iterates based on human review feedback within the PR itself.
Well, you'd likely do the prompting back in the ChatGPT interface based on the review, but yes, it facilitates that iterative review cycle. It can also handle paper cuts.
Paper cuts.
Yeah, the small, annoying, but time-consuming things. Fixing typos across many files, making sure variable names are consistent everywhere, stuff that interrupts your flow. Codex can just chip away at those in the background.
Like a dedicated assistant for the small stuff.
Pretty much. And people have even used it to find errors while they're busy, like on a call. Set Codex off to analyze a part of the code base, run tests. It might flag an issue you can look at later.
Wow, okay. Like having an extra pair of eyes or hands working asynchronously. Let's get into the tech a bit more. How does it actually work under the hood?
So the core process is quite interesting. First, it takes your instruction, writes some code it thinks will work.
Okay, standard LLM stuff so far.
But here's the difference. Unlike a typical large language model, an LLM, just predicting text, Codex actually runs the code it just wrote inside that micro VM we talked about.
It executes the code to see if it works.
Exactly. Then it checks the results. Did it run without errors? Did the tests pass?
Ah, so the feedback isn't just, does this text look right, but did this code achieve the goal?
Precisely. The reward system for training Codex is all about end-to-end functionality. It gets rewarded if the task is completed successfully, tests pass, everything works. It's not just about plausible-looking code.
That seems way more practical for actual development.
It is, and this drives a powerful feedback loop. If the code fails or tests break, it doesn't just give up.
What does it do?
It tries again. It might generate little scripts to reproduce the error, figure out what went wrong. It can try fixing lint errors, adjust formatting, then run it again.
So it iterates, learns from failure, tries to fix its own mistakes, like a real engineer might.
Kind of, yeah. It's this process driven by execution and testing that makes it behave more like a thoughtful engineer. And the results show Codex 1 performs really well on benchmarks like SWE Bench Verified, which measures fixing real bugs, and on OpenAI's internal tasks too.
Learning by doing, essentially. Now, back to those micro VM sandboxes. Can you flesh out that cloud workshop idea a bit more? What's really in there?
Sure, so each task gets its own fresh micro VM, totally isolated, its own file system, its own slice of CPU and RAM, and crucially, a very locked down network policy.
Locked down how?
Basically, no general internet access. Keeps things secure, prevents rogue scripts from calling out or doing harm.
Okay, so security and reproducibility are key benefits there.
Absolutely. Inside that VM, it clones your repo branch, injects those environment variables and secrets you set up, and has common tools ready: linters, formatters, test runners.
And because each task is separate,
You get massive parallelism. run loads of tasks at once without them stepping on each other's toes, fix typos here, run tests there, refactor something else over there, all concurrently.
Like a whole team of virtual junior devs working in parallel. You mentioned an agentness.md file.
Ah, yes. That's optional but useful. Think of it like a readm file, but specifically for AI agents like Codex.
Instructions for the AI.
Exactly. You can put guidance in there. Things like, here's how a project is structured, run tests using this specific command. We prefer commit messages formatted like this.
You could even ask for fun things, like the Ask the Art Cat you mentioned.
Yeah, apparently so. The point is, the richer the instructions you provide in agents.md, the better Codex can understand your project's conventions and work the way you want it to.
Like giving your AI collaborator a good onboarding doc.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk access and future plans. Who can use this today and what's coming next?
Right now, as we said, it's for ChatGPT Pro, Enterprise, and Team users. They plan to roll it out to Plus and EDU users down the line.
And the usage limits.
During this research preview, they're described as generous, but that might change based on demand and resources as it evolves. It's still early days.
Makes sense. What about future developments? Anything exciting on the horizon?
Oh yeah, a big one is an API and application programming interface.
So developers could build Codex into their own tools.
Exactly. Imagine integrating this power directly into your custom development workflows or internal platforms. That opens up a lot of possibilities.
Right. What else?
They're also looking at integrating Codex into CI pipelines continuous integration.
How would that work?
Imagine your automated build fails. Codex could potentially jump in, figure out the common error, fix it, and retry the build automatically.
Wow, self-healing builds.
Potentially. And they want to unify the experience between the Codex CLI, that's the command line interface tool for your local terminal, and the ChatGPT version.
So you could start something locally with the CLI and maybe hand off a bigger task to the cloud agent seamlessly.
That seems to be the idea. A fluid workflow between local synchronous work and cloud-based asynchronous delegation.
That integration sounds powerful. But again, AI writing code, security has to be a top concern. What specific safeguards are in place?
They emphasize this quite a bit. As we covered, it runs in those isolated containers. No internet access during task execution.
Right, limits the blast radius.
Exactly. It can't just call random APIs. And it only accesses the specific GitHub repo you authorize, plus any setup scripts you provide. It can't wander around your network or system.
Confined to the task at hand.
Yes. They've also specifically trained it to identify and refuse requests that look like they're trying to generate malware or malicious code,
Actively trying to prevent misuse.
along with internal policies and safety reviews. And transparency is key. If it's unsure about instructions or if tests fail, it flags that clearly in the results. You see what it tried and where it struggled.
That transparency builds trust. Okay, we heard about OpenAI's internal use, but what about other companies? Are there more real-world examples?
Yeah, several interesting ones. Cisco is exploring it for their large engineering teams, hoping to offload complex tasks and speed up big projects.
Makes sense for a large org.
Temporal, the workflow platform company, uses it for faster feature development, debugging, testing, and refactoring their pretty complex code base.
Across the development lifecycle, then.
Pretty much. Superhuman, the email client, found their product managers can use it for small code contributions.
Product managers writing code.
Minor things, yeah, like tweaking UI text or small layout adjustments without needing to pull in an engineer every time. Frees up engineers for bigger problems.
Interesting delegation.
And Kodiak, the autonomous driving company, uses it to help write debugging tools, improve test coverage crucial for them, and refactor code for their self-driving systems.
High-stakes environment, so efficiency and correctness are paramount there. These examples really show the breadth of potential applications. You also mentioned a Codex CLI and Codex Mini earlier.
Right. So besides the main cloud agent in ChatGPT, there's Codex CLI. It's an open source tool you run locally in your terminal.
Command line interface.
Yeah. It uses the same powerful Codex 1 model, but it's more for interactive, synchronous tasks right there in your local dev environment.
For devs who prefer the terminal.
Exactly. And then there's Codex Mini. This is a lighter, faster version of the model.
Faster. What's it optimized for?
Speed and responsiveness. Think interactive editing, quick suggestions, completions within your editor. While Codex 1 tackles the bigger multi-step jobs, Codex Mini is for the quick back and forth.
Different tools for different jobs. Is Codex Mini available?
It's available via the OpenAI API. They have specific pricing based on tokens, the input and output text units, with discounts for caching repeated prompts. And they're actually giving out API credits to Plus and Pro users to try out the Codex CLI right now.
Making it easier to experiment. So we have the cloud agent, the local CLI, different model sizes. What's the big picture here? The long-term vision.
The vision seems to be this seamless blend of human and AI collaboration in software development.
Blending how?
Combining real-time help, like Copilot offers now in your IDE, with this asynchronous delegation that Codex enables.
So AI helps me type, and I can send it off to do bigger tasks while I do something else.
That's the idea. Imagine working on code, getting stuck, and just delegating the tricky refactoring part to a Codex agent in the cloud. It works on it, gives you updates, maybe you guide it mid-task.
A true Copilot and a delegate, all integrated.
Yeah, integrated across all your tools, IDEs, CI/CD pipelines, issue trackers. The ultimate goal feels like having these AI agents become almost like staff engineers in the cloud.
Staff engineers in the cloud, that's quite a concept. Always available, ready to take on tasks.
Right. And interestingly, this pushes toward optimizing our code bases for AI collaboration.
How so?
Well, it turns out the things that make code easy for AI to understand and work with clear structure, good tests, documentation, modularity, are the exact same things that make code good for human developers.
So writing better code for ourselves naturally makes it better for AI partners too.
Seems that way. Good engineering practices benefit everyone, human or AI.
Okay, one final clarification. How does this Codex agent really differ from GitHub Copilot, since Copilot was built on an earlier Codex model?
Good question. It's easy to get them confused. They serve different roles. GitHub Copilot is primarily an in-IDE code completion tool. It's about real-time suggestions as you type, based on the immediate context. Very tightly integrated into editors like VS Code.
Focused on the immediate coding moment.
Exactly. Codex, the agent we've been discussing, is more of a cloud-native task executor. It handles bigger, autonomous jobs, generating features, fixing bugs across files, creating pull requests. It works more asynchronously in its own environment.
Different levels of abstraction and autonomy.
Right. Copilot assists your typing. Codex takes on delegated tasks. Their integration points are different, too. Copilot lives in the IDE, Codex lives in ChatGPT and the CLI for now, and the pricing models differ. Copilot has free and paid tiers. Codex is currently bundled with certain ChatGPT subscriptions during this preview.
So Copilot is the smart hands-on assistant right beside you, while Codex is the capable team member you can delegate larger chunks of work to in the cloud.
That's a good way to put it. Both are AI assisting development, but in quite distinct ways. Codex definitely feels like a bigger step towards AI taking on more end-to-end responsibility.
It really does seem like a significant shift. We're moving towards developers focusing more on the intent, the validation, and delegating more of the how, the actual coding execution to AI agents like Codex.
Absolutely. It changes the focus. Less time on the mechanics of writing every line, potentially more time on design, architecture, and verifying the outcomes.
It certainly leaves us with a lot to think about. As AI takes on more of these coding responsibilities, it begs the question, how will the role of the human software engineer evolve? What new skills become critical when you're collaborating so closely with AI? That's definitely something to ponder. Thanks for this deep dive into OpenAI Codex.
My pleasure. It's a fascinating development.